Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to another week of Future of Money with Libra. My name is Denitha Doe, and I am here with Ron Baker, one of the most well known thought leaders within the accounting profession. Ron is on a quest to bury the billable hour and trash the timesheets. Thank you so much for joining me today, Ron. How are you?
Oh, I'm thrilled to be here, Denitha. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, and so I'll just do a quick introduction for those that don't know your work. You are also a top 100 most influential leaders within the accounting space. You've written seven best-selling books, and your institute, the Verasage Institute, works with professional knowledge firms to help them bury the timesheet and really start innovating their practices.
Right. You got it.
Did I catch it? Yay! Awesome. Tell us, for those that aren't familiar with your work and what you've done with the account for the accounting profession, can you share what you and your institute do for accounting firms?
Well, we really want to change the business model of accounting firms from essentially we sell time to we sell knowledge, or our customers buy outcomes that are accomplished with the knowledge and intellectual capital that we have. So we're really all about changing the business model, and of course, a big component of that is the price. But it's also how you create value for the customer. So we also look at innovating new services and basically just adding more services to the professional firms that they can offer to their customers to help them achieve their objectives.
That's amazing. And I love that some of what you also speak to, moving from value based or moving from hourly pricing to value based pricing, is really taking a different look at your staff and the way we view humans as resources. Can you touch a little bit on that?
Yeah, I think that's one of uh, the worst language that we use in business is to call our people assets or resources, right? I don't own you, and you're certainly not a resource to be plucked out of the ground when I run out, right? I mean, people are actually knowledge workers or volunteers. And I don't think our organizations, our firms have come to grips with that fact that the people that work for you actually are investing their own intellectual capital into your organization. So at best, you're renting it. You don't own it. They're bringing it with them. The knowledge worker owns the means of production in the knowledge economy. And that's what's different from, say, an industrial economy where if you and I work for Henry Ford's factory, he owns the means of production. Well, today, you and I own the means of production. And that's a big shift. And our firms haven't come to grips with that.
Can you tell us a little bit about why that is? Why is it so hard for accounting firms to grasp that line of thinking?
A lot of it, I think, is the illusion of control. We believe that we have to have timesheets and track every 6 minutes of people's activity. Otherwise, how would we know what they're doing? Well, geez, if you don't know what really intelligent, smart people are doing, you've got a leadership problem, I think, or maybe you made the wrong hiring choice. But I think old ways die hard, and a lot of our organizations haven't come to grips with the realities of a knowledge-based economy. We're still kind of in an industrial service-based mindset, but we really truly do live in a knowledge-based economy.
That is such a good point. And the idea of intellectual capital, it really helps, and you touched on this as well. It eliminates the idea that you have competition. It's more you create a blue ocean type of strategy. It's not a rivalry when you share information. If you move more towards this line of thinking, can you touch a little bit on that as well?
Yeah, wow, Denitha, that's a great point. The concept of intellectual capital, I use a framework that breaks it down into three components: human capital, which is the stuff that leaves the building at night, the humans, and then the social capital, which is your firm's customers, your vendors, your alumni, the associations that you belong to, and then the structural capital, and which is the stuff that stays within the walls after the people go home. So tools, resources, strategy, all of that. But if you look at those three, the only one actually that the firm owns is the structural. Nobody owns the social capital and nobody owns the human capital. And the human capital is 80% of your firm's ability to create wealth for your customers resides in people's heads in human capital. That's a pretty astonishing statistic. That comes from the World Bank, by the way, that 80% of the developed world's wealth resides in human capital.
Wow.
Well, that means 80% of your firm's ability to create wealth resides in human capital. It's our imagination and our knowledge. And if you think about intellectual capital, it's a non-rival asset. If I give you this glass, now you can drink it and I can't. And if I drink it, that means you can. It can only be at one place at one time. And what's worse is the more I drink, the less for you. But if I give you an idea or a piece of knowledge, now we both have it. I didn't lose it when I gave it to you, and it grows and it expands. And that's what makes the intellectual capital such a great business model, because what's a billable hour? It's a rival asset. It's like the glass of water, whereas knowledge can be at a million places in one time, and it can be out there multiplying and generating revenue for you.
That's incredible. And I can only imagine that shift, though, is incredibly difficult for companies or firms that have been operating that way for quite a bit of time.
Yeah, the billable hour and the timesheet actually date back to 1919. A law firm in Boston, Massachusetts was the first to introduce both simultaneously. Well, just ask yourself if the world has changed since 1919.
Right.
But
We'll
we're
give you a
running on
moment.
this antiquated business model. It doesn't make any sense.
It's like, we'll give you a moment to think about that. Has the world changed since 1919? Yeah, so in your work, gosh, you hit on so many good points. When you do work with a firm, a CPA firm, let's say, a lot of our listeners are accountants, they work for CPA firms. What is your process for helping them move not only the mindset, shifting the mindset, but also what's the actual strategy? What's the structure? How can they start to adopt this line of thinking and applying it?
Well, like you said, education is a big component. First, there obviously needs to be awareness, and that can happen anywhere within the firm. Sometimes we get hauled in by a junior team member, not even a partner or manager, but a team member that makes this a topic come to the firm. But usually you need top level support. So it's at some point you're going to have the managing partner's full backing. Then I believe the other strategy is we have to centralize pricing. We have to remove pricing from people who are terrible at it. And there are way too many partners in CPA firms in particular that are no good at pricing. Well, if I wasn't a good auditor, you wouldn't let me audit. If I was terrible at taxes, you wouldn't let me do that. Why are we letting people who are no good at pricing price? So we want to centralize pricing, turn it over to a group who's dedicated to it, going to study it, learn more of it, and get better at it. And so centralizing pricing by appointing a value counsel and a chief value officer, that's the big strategy that we shoot for to make this transformation happen.
That is really interesting. I've never heard of, and I love that actually, either outsourcing it, it sounds like, or actually creating a new role where that's all that someone does. And it brings a level of objectivity, it sounds like, to the process as well.
It does. And just coincidentally on that, there's an organization out of Atlanta, Georgia called the Professional Pricing Society. And they certify now professional pricers. It's actually a designation, CPP. I actually believe pricing is now a profession, right up there with lawyers and accountants. You can get an MBA now in pricing from a few different universities, and you get a PhD in it. So it's a profession.
That's incredible. And I absolutely believe that. Wow, that's pretty amazing.
It is.
One of the things that we've seen, you've been preaching this for, is it 20
years.
20 years. And it's still a conversation, and it's something that firms are still grappling with. I think, would you say that technology is helping us move more towards this mindset? What are your thoughts on technology within this conversation?
Yes, technology is a big driving force, I think. If you look at the major software publishers, just to take an example, Intuit, Sage, Xero, all of them now are behind this idea because they realize if they want to put accountants and their clients in the cloud and give them all these apps and all these other ecosystems of great things that automate a lot of the work that we used to do, well, if you're in a we sell time mindset, and what used to take you 4 hours now takes you 1 minute, or maybe even no time whatsoever, how can you continue to make money, let alone profit, if you think you're selling time? So all the big players know that the business model has to change. And I couldn't have said that 10 years ago, except for maybe one of the software companies. But now all of them are in this space, and they're all backing us at the VeraSage Institute on helping us get this message out. So I think you're going to see the tipping point happen quicker than it would have if it wasn't for the technology companies backing this idea.
It's incredible. Yes, it's a continued conversation. You do workshops, seminars with Intuit to help accounting firms learn this, whether it's within their own firm or if they aren't able to work with the Institute. You've been doing workshops with them as well.
Yeah, in fact, there's 4 right now on the Intuit website that are free, and they're a couple hours each, and they kind of walk through our 8-step process on how to make this change, and they're chock full of great information and a lot of Q&A too.
That's awesome. Which what we're also talking about is innovation and really adopting this mindset of always trying to improve your company or the way you view the company. What do you think is the next step for the firm, where or for the accounting profession?
My biggest concern for the accounting profession is remaining relevant. Uh,
Mm.
we have, we're kind of a historical profession, and a lot of people say we're historians with bad memories. Uh, we auditors kind of go in after the battle and bayonet the wounded, and I think we have to help clients look forward more rather than just reporting on history. Help them make history. Now, I'm not talking about being a strategic consultant like McKinsey, but I am talking about helping clients look forward rather than just simply be historians. Otherwise, I think we will continue to slide into irrelevancy if we don't. I mean, when was the last time you saw an innovative service come out of the accounting profession? Can you name the last one? I will for you.
Yeah, I was about to say, please help
It,
me.
it was the reviews and compilations. And that was a ground up innovation from the accounting profession that said, hey, not only can we give you an audit, but we could give you a review or a compilation, depending on what your bank wanted. Denitha, that was 1978. So we've got a 37-year and counting innovation curve. So as a profession, we're still playing 8 tracks, and everybody's moved on to streaming music.
Oh my goodness. So what is the next level? What's another service then that a firm that can implement now that's groundbreaking?
Well, obviously, I mean, financial services has been talked about a lot now that it's legal to do that. You could certainly go into that. But I think things like elder care, estate planning, obviously, are big because of the graying population. But I also think, doing like key performance indicators or key predictive indicators, helping the company find out the things that drive the financial performance. I mean, the financial statements are lagging indicators. They're not leading indicators. So to run your business based on your financial statements is like timing your cookies with your smoke alarm, right? But
It doesn't work? What?
it doesn't
Will
work.
my
Yeah,
chocolate chip cookies be burnt? What?
all the time. So I think we need to become more future driven and more consultative and business advisory services, helping the businesses run better because businesses do look to their accountants as their primary advisors, but we kind of are stuck in just doing compliance and playing historian rather than helping them look forward.
Yeah, that's such a great point. It makes me think. I had a conversation with an accountant about social media. That's also a hot topic right now as well. And your marketing efforts are the leading indicators, and then the financial reports help justify or show if those marketing efforts were effective. But it could take 7, 8, 9, 12 months before
Absolutely.
that's shown. Very interesting. What are your so Libra is a digital currency tax software, and
Mhm.
although digital currency is becoming more and more of a conversation, especially in our area, we're in the Bay Area. What are your thoughts on accountants learning about digital currency?
Well, it's not my area of expertise, although I'm fascinated by Bitcoin and the other currencies that are out there. My colleague Dan Morris, one of the co-founders of VeriSage, is into this topic big time. He's teaching a course this year for it at the California Society of CPAs. So he'd be a great person to interview next on that topic specifically. But I think it's awesome. I think Bitcoin, I mean, it's the wave of the future. I don't know if it's going to be Bitcoin or somebody else, but there's no doubt that you're going to see disruption in the currency market, just like you are in the taxi cab market with Uber, or the music industry with Napster and iTunes. I think that's just a natural disruptive progression that we'll go through. It'll be really interesting to see how it unfolds.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah, and I think that was a great analogy, Uber as well as streaming music. And I'd love to talk to Dan. What fascinates you about the space?
The idea that you could take money out of the government, that you could privatize money. And I think that would be probably a splendid thing. I don't think the Federal Reserve's track record has been that great. I think they caused the Great Depression and then prolonged it with a lot of monetary policy errors. And I would love to see privatized money. And I think Bitcoin or something like it is the first step towards that.
That's a really great way you put it. Yeah, it will be very fascinating, especially within countries where they don't have less of an even stable banking system than we do
Great
here.
point. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So if you were to leave an accountant or firm with one thing that they could do today to remain relevant or to ensure that they can remain relevant, what would you say?
Well, people aren't going to like this, but I'd say get rid of your timesheets. Getting rid of the timesheet is probably the quickest way to make this transformation because I think it's the timesheet that traps the profession in the mentality that they sell time. But there's not a client alive that buys time. That's not what you're buying from your CPA. You're buying peace of mind, sleep, help solve problems, pursue opportunity, anything but time. So how can we sell something to somebody if that's not what they think they're buying? So I think we need to get rid of it. And I think the real cancer in the profession is the timesheet. And if you get rid of the timesheet, then you'll start looking at outcomes and value, which is what the customer really cares about. It's no different than when a friend or a loved one has a baby, right? You want to see the baby. You don't want to hear about the labor pains. But our profession not only measures the labor pains, and focuses on them. We measure them in 6-minute contractions and then bill the client for them. It doesn't make any sense. The client cares about the baby.
That that was amazing. Such a great analogy.
We're full of great analogies,
I,
Denise.
I love it. I mean, that's how you paint a really vivid picture. Exactly. Well, thank you so much, Ron. How can we connect with you?
People can find me at verisage.com. That's the VeriSage Institute think tank that you mentioned. And also, I do a radio show every Friday with my colleague Ed Kless from Sage Software. And that's you can find that at thesoulofinterprise.com. You can listen to 1 year's worth of shows. In fact, tomorrow is our first year anniversary. So we've done 50 some odd shows. And we've had guests on pricing people, all sorts of different topics around this whole knowledge-based economy. So it's really fun, and it's a 1 hour show, so you can get it in bite sizes.
Awesome.
Awesome. I love it. I love it.
Thank you so much for your time today, and thank you all for watching this week. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Tanitha.
Thank